Hi, my name is Mary Montione from Montione's Biscotti Bakery. We specialize in baking biscotti in many flavors. We've been in business for 20 years and we're located in Norton, Massachusetts. Today I'm going to show you how to bake biscotti and share some tips with you. What I do is I measure my almonds and I put them on a sheet pan like you see here. And I place this in the oven for about 10 minutes at 350 degrees. And what that does is it lightly roasts your almonds, which I find it really helps. It enhances the flavor of the nut, and it makes it a little crisper. If you like your almonds raw, you could use them raw. But again, I toast them only very lightly, and I have 2 cut almonds here. One, this is the raw one, it's very white, and this is lightly toasted. You don't want to over toast the almonds or your nuts, because once you slice your biscotti and you return it into the oven for the second bake, those almonds are going to be toasting yet a third time. And if they toast too much, they'll burn and your biscotti will be bitter. So now what I'm going to do is lightly chop the almonds in a food processor. And you could keep them whole if you want. If you keep them whole, you will get more of a buttery flavor in the batter of your biscotti. If you coarsely chop them and you have the dust and the pieces, that will mix throughout the batter and give you more of an almond flavor. But you just have to coarsely chop them a little bit. That's it. Okay, now we're ready to mix our biscotti. You add your sugar. And then add your butter. And again, an ingredient thermometer is very handy. You want your butter at room temperature. It's about 68 degrees, so it's pretty squishy. It'll be easier to beat, and it'll make a nice batter for you. And then you mix that for 2 to 3 minutes. It'll start off looking like a coarse batter, or a coarse mixture, and then it'll get creamier as you go. Then you have your eggs, and in here I have 5 whole eggs, and I'm just using a fork to break the yolks. I'm not scrambling them or beating them or anything. And you want to add your eggs in 4 to 5 parts, and after each part, or you could add 1 egg at a time. Well, actually, what I always do is I add my extracts too with the eggs. And after each part, you mix about 2 minutes. Again, if it's really hot out or humid, the batter will take in the humidity and it may become soupy, so you want to stop mixing a little sooner just so that it maintains that fluffiness in the air in the batter. So there. That's what your batter should look like. Then we're going to take our flour, add our baking powder to it, and our salt, and mix that. And then you could just pour that right in. And then add your almonds. And I'll just add everything. And then you're just going to mix and scrape a little bit in between. When you coarsely chop the nuts, some of the nuts might end up whole. It's no big deal. Again, if you want to save time or you like the nuts raw, you could do that. Stop and scrape to make sure you don't have any wet. See, it's kind of wet on the bottom, so you want to turn it so that you can mix all that in. And that's about it. Again, it's not, the times on the written recipe are approximates. You need to really look at the dough and see what the dough feels like. It's a little sticky right now, but when we start using some flour to roll it out, it won't stick to your fingers. I powder my hands a little bit. Wherever I feel that it's sticky, I just powder that part of it. For full-size biscotti, you could get two logs out of it. So you divide your roll one log about 12 or 13 inches, divide it in half, and then take one half and roll it about 13 inches. It'll be about 1.5 inches in diameter, and could take a ruler. It's about 14 inches, so make it a little shorter. And I move my log to the sheet pan. I move the logs to the sheet pan and then I press them out while they're in the sheet pan. And you're going to press them out so that they are about 4.5 inches wide. And when they bake, they'll spread about 1.5 inches. No, I'm sorry, they'll spread 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So just to give you an idea, it's about 3.5 inches. So this is for a full-size biscotti. When you're making the minis, you would divide the dough in 4 parts. And I have all the measurements online, on the website recipe. Now it's ready to go in the oven. You're going to put this in the oven at 325 degrees for about 35 minutes. Once your biscotti are baked, you take them out of the oven and you let them cool for 10 to 15 minutes till you can handle them with your hands. Or if you need to take a break, you could let them cool completely. At this point, if you need a little bit of a break, you could just let them sit. Next step, what we're going to do is slice our biscotti. We're going to take the log and put it on the cutting board. You could slice it straight or you could slice it on the diagonal. It's up to you. I slice mine straight, about 1/2 inch wide. If you cut them a little wider, they might stay soft in the middle, which if you like it that way, that's great. The other thing to remember is that you don't have to put them back in the oven a second time if you want to keep them soft. A lot of people like them once baked instead of twice baked. Or you could put part of them in the oven and keep some of them soft and make some of them crispy. That way it makes you look like you've been baking for the past several days. So again, you see that these almonds are lightly toasted. I'll put the ends in too. And now when you place it back in the oven, they're going to toast a third time because you toasted them before we mixed. And then we added them to the mix in the first bake. They cooked again. Now they're going to bake a third time. These are going back into the oven at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes. If you'd like them crispier, you could keep them in for 12 or 15 minutes, whatever your preference. And this is our biscotti. On this side is our toasted biscotti, and I put it next to a row of biscotti that has not been toasted the second time yet. And you'll notice that the almonds again are toastier than the almonds over here, and that the bottoms did brown a little bit more. So it is worth toasting baking that log at a lower temperature. What you could also do is you could dip your biscotti in chocolate. These particular biscotti, they're not too sweet. They have a light butter flavor to them, so the chocolate will add a little bit more flavor to it. I've melted some chocolate pieces chocolate chips in a double boiler, and if you wanted to dip them in a thinner chocolate, you could add some heavy cream or a little bit of butter. You would never ever add water. I'll add the proportions on the online recipe and on How To Heroes. All you do is just dip them and swipe it, or you could dip it and just leave it textured, and it'll take a little bit. That's kind of interesting. These biscotti here I dipped in chocolate with a little bit of heavy cream, so it's more of a ganache. And if you want to fancy it up a little bit, you could melt some white chocolate and just drizzle it on. And that's it. Then you let it dry. Your biscotti should last several weeks stored in an airtight container. You could put it in a tin, or you could put it in a bag. You could freeze it. If you're going to freeze it, I would put it in a freezer bag. And that's how you make biscotti. There are a few steps to it, but after you've made it a few times, it becomes second nature and it goes quickly.